He was just a delusional loser, but he bonded with the most advanced technology in the world and became the strongest cyborg warrior. It all started when Hikaru, a spineless loser who would never amount to anything in his life, was out bicycling one night, and he saw a tall building in front of him explode. He lived in a world with advanced technology, and the building that just exploded belonged to the Kagami Group, which was the biggest tech company in the world. However, behind the mask of being a tech giant, the Kagami Group was secretly enslaving mechanical alien life forms called mecha arms, and that was the reason behind the attack on their building. A redhead named Aki, who is a member of the group trying to free mecha arms, was behind the attack. She steals a golden cube, which is the strongest mecha arm in existence, and then uses the power of the twin mecha arms protruding from her legs to jump high and exit the main facility. But as soon as she steps out, she finds the guards surrounding her. She activates the power of her mecha arms and charges at the guards, deflecting their bullets and knocking them down easily. Just then, an elite force with anti-mecha weapons arrives there and pins her down. The leader of the squad comes ahead and tells Aki that he will be taking what she stole back. He activates the power of mecha arms he has enslaved, and suddenly, her mechanical organs begin speaking, cursing the man for treating one of their own so badly. He mocks those little pieces of junks that could never become transformers and turns his mecha arms into a stretchy sword. He whips the flask containing the cube out of the redhead's hand, and Aki commands her two mecha arms to operate at full power. They break free from the anti-mecha weapons and charge at the douchebag commander, craftily distracting him to swipe the cube from his hands. However, the flask had taken too much damage because of their fight, and as she grabs it, it shatters, releasing the bright golden light that Hikaru saw, and right after it, he heard the golden cube's voice calling for help. The next day, as Hikaru takes the train to school, he begins searching online for the weird light show that he saw last night. However, there is no information at all about it, and he wonders if he was dreaming. Soon, his friends board the train too, and find him lost in his thoughts. On the way to school, he tells them what happened last night, but none of them have seen anything like that. Hikaru had even recorded the entire incident, but as he shows the video to his friends, he finds that nothing he saw has been captured in it. His friends tell him to pass the number of his shroom dealer because they want to smoke whatever he did last night. Just then, a girl named Shira comes there and bumps into Hikaru on purpose, asking what is he watching. His friends say that Hikaru heard a ghost's voice last night, when he suddenly hears the weak voice calling for help again. Hikaru immediately ditches school and runs towards the direction of the voice and arrives at an old factory. A policeman comes to stop him from entering the factory, but he gets called back by his superiors, so he leaves Hikaru unsupervised. Hikaru hears the voice again, and he can't keep his curiosity under control now. He heads inside the restricted area and finds the glowing mecha cube. Just as he is about to touch it, the cube starts glowing brightly and asks if someone is there to help. Hikaru freaks out, but he still touches the cube that suddenly releases a burst of energy and shoots towards the sky. It falls directly on top of Hikaru, who crouches to shield his head, and the cube lands on his hoodie. A light pillar shoots up from his back, and when it is over, there is a metallic arm protruding from Hikaru's back. The arm awakens, and as it sees the sky for the first time, it rejoices that it is finally free. Hikaru panics, wondering where the voice is coming from, and then the arm bends down to face him. He freaks out and falls to the ground, and the arm thanks him for saving his life. Hikaru can't believe his eyes and tries pulling the mecha arm out of his back, but realizes that he is pulling himself. Only after he falls to the ground does he realize that the mecha arm is stuck to his hoodie. Just then, a delivery drone arrives there and starts scanning them. Hikaru thinks that the mecha arm must belong to the Kagami group, and they must be trying to get it back. So he takes off his hoodie and says that he will just return the mecha arm to his rightful owner. Meanwhile, the delivery drone can't find any matches on Hikaru, so it categorizes him as a potential enemy, and immediately releases two saw blades to end his life. Hikaru freaks out and runs as fast as he can, and the mecha arm latches onto him. Hikaru tells him to let go and asks why is his friend attacking them. The mecha arm calls him racist for thinking all machines are the same, and then says that Hikaru is his only friend. The mecha arm pulls his pants while clinging to him, and Hikaru falls to the ground. The drone catches up to him and attacks him, but the mecha arm blocks the attack and disables the drone. Hikaru is stunned by this, but the mecha arm tells him to snap out of it because there are more enemies in the air. He says that they need to work together to survive, and Hikaru is forced to pick the mecha arm and run from the drones. He hides from the drones and then asks the mecha arm what exactly is he. The mecha arm replies that he can't even recall his name right now, and the only thing he is certain of is the fact that Hikaru is kind. Well, he is not as kind as mecha arm thought, because he takes off his hoodie and places it on the ground as he begins to leave because this is none of his business. Mecha arm freaks out and tries to convince him to stay because he would be in greater danger without him, but Hikaru doesn't care. He keeps walking away despite the mini Transformers' protests, but then suddenly, the voice of mecha arm begins fading, and Hikaru turns around to see it powering down. The mecha arm begs him not to leave him alone, and just as Hikaru approaches him, he becomes charged again. Hikaru thinks it is just a trick, but after trying it out various times, he finds that the mecha arm needs to be close to him to be active. He has no choice but to take him along now, but just then, the killer drones find them. Hikaru prepares to run, but mecha arm says that it is his turn to save him. He suddenly begins crawling with great speed, pulling Hikaru along. It gets tired after a while, and Hikaru is forced to run again. He is about to be caught by the drones, when suddenly, the redhead Eki pops up in front of him. She pulls him to the side and activates her mecha arms to destroy the drones chasing them with just one kick. She tells Hikaru's mecha arm that she finally found him, and threatens to kill him if he moves. Her mecha arms tell her that their mission is to rescue the boy and the golden mecha. And just then, the nasty commander also comes there. He is looking for a rematch with Aki, and while the two of them cuss each other out, mecha arm points towards a narrow gap in the wall that Hikaru uses to escape. Aki tries to stop him, but the commander attacks her, and she decides to finish him first. Meanwhile, Hikaru comes out on the other side, but immediately runs into a drone. Mecha arm punches the drone away, but Hikaru falls to the ground because of the impact. He starts regretting following the voice and coming here, and begins running again. Suddenly, mecha arm tells him to leave him and run away, because he doesn't want to create trouble for kind people like him. Hikaru is unable to give him a reply, and just then, Aki finds him after defeating the commander. She tells Hikaru to quietly obey her orders if he wants to live, and mecha arm is ready to surrender if she lets the boy go. However, Hikaru has had enough of being looked down upon, and he decides to not leave the mecha arm behind. He doesn't know what to do as Aki declares that she will use force to subdue him, and then mecha arm tells him to rush ahead, because that is the only way they can win. He asks Hikaru to trust him, because they will definitely win. Hikaru takes the leap of faith and runs ahead at full speed. Mecha arm helps him jump high, and then unleashes its true power, growing in size like me when I see a pretty goth girl. With that size and momentum, just one hit is enough to knock Aki out, and Hikaru can't believe what just happened. Aki is unable to move, and he decides to run away from her as fast as possible, even as she keeps telling him to stop. As they run away, Hikaru asks mecha arm if his name is Alma, because Aki was calling him that. He doesn't remember, but decides to take that name for now. The next day, as Hikaru goes to school, he is forced to take Alma with him because leaving him alone would be dangerous. He just wishes that no one notices anything weird, but then gets the biggest shock of his life as their teacher introduces Aki as the new transfer student. Hikaru is already terrified, and then Aki picks up an empty desk and slams it right next to him, so that she can keep a constant eye on him. Hikaru is terrified of her and immediately runs to the bathroom, unable to believe that the crazy bitch followed him all the way to his school. Alma tells him that she doesn't seem too hostile right now, and Hikaru tells him that even she won't be crazy enough to attack him in the middle of the classroom. Alma thinks that they should try to talk things out with Aki because they did not get a chance to hear her yesterday. Hikaru doesn't think that is a good idea, and he believes that he should contact the police right away. He doesn't realize that Alma had been messing with the toilet paper till he is literally sinking in it and freaks out. But just then, Eki climbs inside the toilet stall, and Hikaru gets a glimpse of heaven. She tells Hikaru that he shouldn't trust the police because they are just the lackeys of the Kagami group, and she offers to protect him instead. Hikaru freaks out because she is sitting on his lap and is just an inch away from his 3 inches. He runs out of the toilet, and Eki follows him, and his friend Shira sees them covered in tissue paper. She immediately thinks that they were getting nasty in the toilet and spreads that hot gossip around the school. Later, Hikaru's friends tease him about his relationship with Eki, and he denies having anything to do with her. Eki arrives there just then, and Hikaru hides before she can find him. Alma tells him to take the leap of faith and talk things out with Redhead when Shira suddenly arrives on the rooftop too and starts getting friendly with Eki. The Redhead gives her a death stare, and Hikaru is worried about his friend. But then Shira pulls out a box of candies and successfully tames the wild Eki. Alma and Hikaru realize that she is more simple-minded than they thought, but he still doesn't want to talk to her. He lays down and puts his earphones on noise cancellation mode so that no one can disturb him. In the meantime, Shira tries to ship Hikaru and Eki together because that gives her a kick. She tells Eki that she will bring Hikaru to her, and later, she reaches Hikaru to give him a letter. While Hikaru is initially happy, thinking that he is getting a confession from the class Madonna, he is horrified when he finds that it is from Eki instead, and she has called him to meet her in private. Hikaru is about to run away, but Shira grabs his hand and drags him along, saying that he must be shy around other people, so she has arranged the most private place for him to talk with Eki. She throws him inside an abandoned building and then locks the door from outside, telling him that he can come out only after losing his V-card. Inside, Hikaru lashes out at Eki for using Shira as her pawn, but she tells him that Shira was the one who came up with this plan. He asks her what the hell does she want, and Eki explains that she is a member of a resistance group called ARMS, and she has been tasked to look over Alma as his bodyguard. Her first mission is to take Alma and Hikaru to their headquarters, and she promises not to hurt him if he cooperates. While Hikaru doesn't trust her, Alma does, and he wants to go with Eki because she seems to know a lot about him. Hikaru is inclined to help him, but before that, he wants to know the reason why Alma loses his energy when he gets away from him. Eki's brain short-circuits on seeing that Alma awakened after coming in contact with Hikaru's hoodie, because that is practically impossible. She loses control over herself and tells Hikaru that she will immediately take him to their base to get inspected. Hikaru doesn't want to do with this crazy girl anymore, and he asks Alma if he can grow like yesterday. Alma tries, but he doesn't have energy anymore, and Hikaru decides to run away instead of getting caught by the crazy chick. However, Shira is guarding the only exit, and he can only hide from Eki. That doesn't last for long either, because Eki breaks through the floor and lands right on top of him. She chokes him without consent and says that she doesn't trust him. She says that he must definitely be using Alma since he has lost his memories, and the golden mecha arm doesn't need him at all. Alma tries to tell them that they are wrong about Hikaru, but Eki has made up her mind to finish him. Before she can do anything, Shira opens the door because she heard a loud voice. However, when she finds Eki sitting on top of Hikaru, she turns red with embarrassment and quickly runs away to give them some private space. Using this chance, Hikaru hides from the distracted Eki, who begins searching for him. Hikaru thinks this is his chance to escape, but another person enters the building just then. Hikaru sees the badge of the Kagami group on his uniform, and the guy named Wanner tells him that he is here for the trigger arm before ARMS finds it. Hikaru lashes out at him because the drones from the Kagami group nearly killed him yesterday, and Wanner tells him that he is here to finish the job. He immediately summons his mecha arm and transforms it into a sonic cannon that makes Hikaru lose balance. As he is feeling weak and dizzy, Wanner opens the door for his partner to snipe him, but Alma manages to pull Hikaru to the side, allowing him to run away. As the sniper keeps firing at Hikaru, Alma feels something strange about the mecha arm with Wanner. Just then, Wanner shoots Hikaru with another sonic attack, bringing him down to his knees and telling his partner his exact location. The sniper shoots Hikaru, but luckily, Iki breaks through the floor above just then and shields Hikaru from the bullet. She looks at Wanner and realizes that he is using a shackled mecha arm. Hikaru and Alma ask her what she means, and she explains that the Kagami group uses their advanced technology to rob the mecha arms of their freedom and convert them into mindless weapons. Alma gets furious that someone is using his kind as slaves, and Wanner says that they are just tools, so they don't need free will. He shoots another sonic blast, and Iki gets hit while trying to shield Hikaru. She feels weak, but gets up to fight against Wanner to buy time for Hikaru to escape. She tells him to hide somewhere in the building while she deals with the bastard with purple dark circles because they can't let them have Alma at any cost. Hikaru obliges and runs away, but Alma keeps tugging on him, saying that they should not have run away, leaving Iki behind. He wants to help her and runs off on his own. However, he runs out of power just as he gets away from Hikaru, who has no choice but to comply with his wishes and help Iki. He starts thinking of a plan to deal with Wanner when suddenly, Alma gives him an idea. In the meantime, Wanner has defeated Iki and put shackles around her mecha arms. He tells her to use them now, but she refuses to stoop so low and gets dragged to the rooftop helplessly, where the sniper chick has come to check on Wanner's progress. She first scolds him for getting sidetracked and letting the host of the trigger arm go, but then she sees Iki, who is on top of their wanted list, and gets excited. Hikaru reaches the roof soon too and immediately pounces on Wanner, who dodges him and shoots him with his sonic cannon. However, his attack doesn't work anymore thanks to Hikaru's noise-canceling earphones, but there is nothing else he can do right now. He sees that Iki is subdued, so he takes off his hoodie and throws it to her side so that Alma can break her free, but he doesn't have enough strength because he is away from Hikaru. Hikaru is frustrated at this, but still dives towards Alma to give him strength while the sniper shoots him. She seems to be a distant relative of the Trump shooter, because she only manages to nick his ear, and Hikaru reaches Alma, who gains enough strength to free Iki. Aki quickly overwhelms the sniper in close combat and then uses her as a human shield as she rushes towards Wanner. Wanner doesn't want to shoot his partner, but the sniper tells him to stop being a sissy and shoot. He obeys, knocking her out, but Aki didn't take too much damage this time. She knocks him out with just one kick and then goes to check up on Hikaru. Suddenly, the building starts crumbling because of the collateral damage during their fights, and the sniper takes off on her glider, leaving everyone to deal with it themselves. When things settle down, more members of ARMS come to retrieve Alma and Hikaru. When Hikaru opens his eyes, he finds himself in the headquarters of ARMS, where their leader Algiz introduces himself and his mecha arm Fist, who looks a lot like Alma. Alma asks who he is, and Fist tells him that he is his older brother, whom he will remember soon, hopefully. Algiz then tells Hikaru that the Kagami group took their capitalistic greed too far and made the mecha arms into slaves to earn a shitton of unethical profit. The resistance group called ARMS was found to fight against them, and now he wants Alma's power, who is the legendary mecha called the Trigger Arm, to free all the shackled mecha arms. Alma immediately agrees to join their fight, and Hikaru reluctantly says yes too. He tells Algiz that he can only help out after school and on weekends, but Algiz and Iki tell him that they only need Alma, and he doesn't need to do anything. Hikaru is shocked, and then the scientist of ARMS comes to explain things to him. He shows him some charts to explain that he hasn't even got 1/10 of mental power called arbitrium to fuel a mecha arm, which makes him utterly unfit to wield Alma. The scientist doesn't hold anything back as he tells Hikaru that he is a loser who got to bond with the ultimate mecha arm purely out of coincidence, and they will try to find ways to separate them both for everyone's sake. Hikaru can't say anything, but Alma speaks on his behalf, saying that Hikaru is not as weak as they think. The scientist says that numbers don't lie, but then suddenly, Aki joins the conversation. She testifies that she saw how Hikaru can draw out Alma's power, so she believes that he still has some potential. She takes up the task of training him, but her training is to make Alma do push-ups while Hikaru just chills doing nothing. He is confused and asks Alma how this is going to help him become stronger, and she just says that he just needs to psych himself up to increase his mental power. He is not convinced, But then suddenly, she gets a call to bring Hikaru to the headquarters again. There, they see a man with strange wounds all over his body and a hole where he was once bonded to a mecha arm. Abridged tells them that a new agent of the Kagami group is attacking mecha arm wielders and stealing their mecha arms. He says that they need to take the stolen mecha arms back before it is too late. Hikaru is curious, and Abridged explains that when humans are separated from their mecha arms, they leak the energy called arbitrium and die. He believes that keeping Hikaru safe should be their top priority and tells Aki to guard him without letting her personal feelings get to her. Hikaru is curious about that too, but Aki tells him to mind his business. She then asks him to come along because she needs to investigate something and takes him to a shipment yard belonging to the Kagami group. A unit of the Kagami group is already there, searching for the younger brother of President Kagami, but their leader's mecha arm is not shackled. Aki immediately goes to talk to them and asks if they know any worm-type mecha arm users. The delinquents decide to attack her because anyone who knows about mecha arms is an enemy. But Aki immediately knocks everyone out by summoning her twin mecha arms. The leader of the delinquents is taken aback to see the notorious twin mecha wielder, and he sends all his guys to attack her. While she fights with them, Hikaru somehow crawls away to safety, and then he finds a green-haired boy hiding behind the containers and getting high on his asthma medications. He gets worried about his safety and takes him away, while Aki keeps fighting the lackeys. She gets pissed when she sees Hikaru running away, even though she had clearly told him to stick with her for his own safety. Just then, the leader of the delinquents transforms his mecha arm into a bike and rides off in style to chase after Hikaru. Meanwhile, Hikaru and the green-haired boy are cornered by more delinquents, who tell Hikaru to leave the boy to them. He refuses, and the delinquents attack him, but Alma comes out of hiding and protects Hikaru. Everyone is shocked to see that Hikaru has the trigger arm, especially the green-haired boy. Just then, the captain comes there and immediately recognizes the trigger arm with Hikaru. Alma senses danger and runs away, but the delinquent captain easily catches up to him. Just then, Aki arrives there and knocks the bike down with a kick. She then interrogates the delinquent captain about the worm-type mecha arm, but he swears on his baby mama that he doesn't know anything about it. Aki is disappointed but lets him go, and then turns to lecture Hikaru about getting away from her. She tells him that he is weak and shouldn't do anything other than what she tells him, and that pisses him off. He says that it is her fault for bringing him here and then throwing him away when she unleashed her mecha arms. He begins walking away, but Alma senses something odd in the air. Alma tries convincing Hikaru to apologize to Aki because she is their guard, but he is not going to do that now. It turns out that the green-haired boy Hikaru saved is the one behind the attack on other mecha users, and he is planning to attack Hikaru and take Alma from him. However, Aki finds him first and confronts him. The boy takes out his mecha arm that looks like a chain made from kryptonite, and apparently that is similar to the worm-type mecha arm Aki was looking for. She immediately attacks the boy but realizes that she walked in a trap. The chain separates into various parts and attacks Aki, defeating her. On the other hand, Hikaru is still mad at her, but then he gets a text from Aki's number. He sees pictures of her severely injured. And then the green-haired boy Jun calls him to inform him that he has defeated Aki and taken her mecha arms. He tells Hikaru to surrender his golden mecha arm to him if he wants to get Aki's mechas and save her life, and sends his location. Hikaru wants to save Aki, but Abridged contacts him and tells him to stay put because their top priority is keeping Alma safe. He says he will send another bodyguard, and Hikaru shouldn't do anything. Hikaru is pissed because everyone keeps telling him to do nothing, but he knows that they are right, and even if he tries, he won't be able to do anything meaningful. Alma tells him that he is lowballing his value because he has pulled through when it was needed the most. Hikaru suddenly realizes that he was able to do things greater than him only because Alma was with him. He gets up and tells Alma that he might not be worth anything by himself, but together they can save Aki. They go to the warehouse, where Jun is waiting for them. Hikaru is shocked to see him and asks what his goal is. Jun replies that he always wanted the trigger arm because whoever bonds with it will become the strongest. Aki was nothing more than an ant in his way. and he only defeated her to lure Hikaru here. Jun attacks Hikaru with his chain, but he is able to dodge them with Alma's help. He reaches close to Jun and tries snatching Aki's mechas from him, but Jun protects them with his green chains and then hits Hikaru away. He keeps attacking, but Hikaru rushes at him and slides on the chains to reach closer to him once again. Jun blocks his attack, but that pushes his frail body more than he would like. He decides to pull out his ultimate move and surrounds Hikaru in a cage of chains to electrocute him. He then tears Alma away from Hikaru and thinks that with a trigger arm, he will finally get rid of his weak body for good. However, Alma still has his consciousness left, and he punches Jun before crawling back to Hikaru. Jun can't believe that Alma can move even after being torn away from its host, and even Hikaru wakes up and crawls towards Alma. He recalls their first meeting as he reaches out to Alma, and just as he touches him, a huge amount of energy is released. Alma bonds to Hikaru once again and covers his right arm. Jun is shocked to see this, but he is not going to give up on getting the trigger arm. He attacks Hikaru, who uses the power of Alma to easily block his attack. It is his turn to attack now, and he immediately shoots Alma towards Jun, who manages to block it with his chains. Hikaru rushes forward as well and puts his hand inside Alma, combining their power to break through Jun's guard. They knock the green-haired boy away, and he loses consciousness. Just as Hikaru thinks he won, Jun's bodyguard comes there to take him back. He tells Hikaru that he doesn't plan to fight him right now because he is satisfied just by seeing his power today, and then picks up Aki's mechas. Hikaru tells him to return them, and the bodyguard gets ready to fight him. But then Jun orders him to leave Hikaru alone because he will kill him with his own hands. The bodyguard accepts his command and lets Hikaru have the two mechas, saying that they will meet each other again. The next day, Aki comes back to her senses in a hospital and finds both her mecha arms attached to her body. She immediately sneaks out of the hospital and goes to meet Hikaru, who is trying to sew Alma back into his hoodie. He is a bit startled when Aki comes there, and after a while of awkward silence, she tells him that she was looking for a worm-type mecha user who killed her family, but Jun was not the guy. She then thanks Hikaru and takes up the task of sewing Alma. She is too violent, and Hikaru tries to stop her, but Shira comes there just then and thinks that she interrupted their private moments once again. A couple days later, Hikaru goes out on his first mission to free a mecha arm from its shackles. He climbs on top of a truck like Tom Cruise and watches a mecha user that looks like the human incarnation of diabetes. Hikaru's job is to activate the electromagnetic pulse that will disable the system of the truck and leave the rest to others. But as Alma sees the fat fuck tormenting the shackled mecha, he gets pissed and overturns the truck. Hikaru scolds Alma as he runs away, but the fat bastard finds him. He attacks him with his powerful cannon, but luckily another member of ARMS rescues Hikaru in time. Fatty follows them, but Aki comes to the rescue and kicks him away. Fatty shows her that he has one more mecha than her and thinks that this will get him a no-diff victory. However, as he attacks Aki, he quickly runs out of gas because controlling multiple mecha arms is more taxing than he thought. Aki contacts the recovery team, but behind her back, a red chain strangles the fatty and hijacks his body. He goes berserk and attacks Aki, giving her a hard time. She wonders what is wrong when she spots the red chain that looks like the worm-type mecha she has been looking for. She gets distracted and is about to sustain severe damage when Hikaru comes to rescue her. He deflects Fatty's blast attack with Alma's help and then rushes ahead to clash with him. He pushes Fatty back by shooting Alma at him and knocks him out. Just then, the other guy comes there with all the mechas that he rescued from the fat bastard's truck and says that this is all thanks to Hikaru. However, Aki is not interested in their conversation at all, and her full attention is on the red chain she saw around the fat guy earlier. Later, as Aki takes a shower, she thinks about her twin sister and parents, whom she lost because of the worm-type mecha user. She then goes outside, where the virgin scientist is waiting to give her the report, but he gets too excited to see her showing some skin. Anyway, he tells her that they freed all the mechas from the fatty, but he didn't know anything about the worm type. He knows that she is searching for the worm mecha to get revenge, and he is ready to help her because he simps for her. But Aki doesn't stick around to hear his rambling. The next day, Alma wakes up Hikaru for school by pushing him out of bed. He even starts stripping him down to help him get changed quickly. And as Hikaru tries to stop him, Aki breaks into his room through the window. She sees that Hikaru is still not ready and decides to help him. Soon, they enter the class, and every girl in the class screams relationship goals as they see Hikaru in Aki's arms. Anyway, as things calm down, Shira tells Hikaru that they have a rich boy who just transferred into their school. Suddenly, Hikaru hears someone yelling his name and calling him to the rooftop. Hikaru goes to the roof, and to his shock, the new transfer student is none other than Jun. He freaks out, but Aki is furious and attacks Jun. He easily blocks her attack and calls her a sore loser. She pushes him back, and he is about to attack her seriously when he gets a call from his guard, who reminds him that he promised not to use his powers at school in exchange for being allowed to attend it. So Jun retracts his mechas and surrenders, and Hikaru stops Aki from attacking him. He asks him what the hell he is doing here, and Jun says that he is here for him. He promises Hikaru that he will steal Alma from him one day, but for now, he is here to observe him and see how he can manifest the power of the trigger arm. Alma thinks that Jun knows a lot about him, and he offers to give out all the information about Hikaru if he can tell him something helpful. Suddenly, Aki attacks Jun, saying that he is too dangerous, but Hikaru stops her, and she gets into a fist fight with him instead. Jun has had enough of them, and he walks away, telling Hikaru that he can't hurt him at school, but he should watch his back when he goes home. Because of that threat, Eki sticks with Hikaru the entire time, and he doesn't even get to eat lunch in peace. As he is sulking about it, Jun appears before him and offers to buy him lunch because his guard told him to observe what he eats to learn the secret of his bonding with Alma. Suddenly, Aki arrives there too, and she lifts Hikaru in her arms as she tells Jun that he can't seduce him with food, but she will be willing to accept his offer for the most expensive item on the menu. Later, Hikaru has a sports period, but he is the clumsiest guy in the school, and Jun is grossly disappointed in him. He gets knocked out by stray balls, and both Aki and Jun come to check on him. Shira senses a love triangle between the three of them, and she decides to become the judge to see if Hikaru should go with Aki or with Jun. She tells Aki and Jun to fight it out with their fists and the power of love, but Hikaru comes to his senses just then. He stops Aki by telling her that he will treat her to the meal she wanted if she lets him talk to Jun in private for 5 minutes, and she immediately folds. She goes away and drags Shira with her too, and Hikaru finally gets to talk with Jun. Alma asks Jun to tell him everything he knows about him, and he pulls out an old picture of his ancestor Yakumo and Alma. Both Hikaru and Alma are shocked to see that, because Yakumo was the founder of the Kagami group as well as the guy who played the greatest role in the development of the city. Jun tells Alma that he once used to belong to their family, and he will take him back at all costs. Alma can't believe that and asks if he really worked with someone who hurt his people. Jun says that he does not know about that because it is a very old story. In the meantime, Aki gets a call from the scientist that he found some clues about the worm mecha user she wanted to find, and she immediately rushes to the location he sent, only to find one of her colleagues already under attack by the worm user, who rips away his mecha and then crushes it. Aki attacks her in rage, but the worm user throws another mecha at the injured man that takes control of his body and makes him go berserk. He attacks Aki, and she thinks that this is the same thing that happened to Fatty. The worm user runs away using this chance, and to follow her, Aki knocks out the guy. In the meantime, she calls Hikaru, who rushes to the site and finds the guy unconscious and his mecha crushed. Soon, a recovery team comes there to take him back, where he undergoes an emergency treatment. Algiz tells Hikaru that the man will survive, but his mecha is beyond saving. Hikaru asks if they can't just repair it with spare parts, but Fist tells him that they are mechanical life forms from another world, and if they die, they die. He then recites the story of why they came to Earth and how it led to Alma losing his memories. He explains that their home world was on the brink of destruction, so the mechas traveled to different places to find Ordella, the father of all mechas. They found him on Earth and managed to awaken his power in hopes of saving their planet. But Ordella went out of control, and Alma used all his strength to seal him. He lost his memories because of that, and getting them back is the only way to remove Ordella's seal and help their planet. However, the Kagami group is trying its hardest to keep Ordella sealed for their selfish reasons, and that is the main cause of war between them and ARMS. On the other side, Iki is chasing after the worm user while recalling what she learned from the simp scientist earlier. The scientist told her that the marks on the body of some people whose mecha arms were stolen did not belong to Jun, and the real worm user was behind it. Iki was furious and grabbed him by the collar for not telling this to her earlier, but the scientist told her that he didn't know anything about this either. He claimed that he only found this out by hacking the ARMS database because he was desperate to help her. Iki is shocked to hear this because this means Algiz knew everything and kept it a secret. The scientist tells her that the first record of something like this happening is 8 years old, and that coincides with the attack on her family. Just then, he got readings of the worm user being active again, and Iki rushed out to find her. She has finally found her in an empty parking lot, and she declares that she will get revenge for her family. She angrily attacks the worm user, but when she sees her face, she is left speechless. The worm user is none other than her twin sister, Fubuki. Iki suddenly remembers the time they used to play together, and they had one mecha each. Fubuki used to take up the role of the princess in distress, while Iki was supposed to the hero who saved her from their mechas who played the bad guys. However, Iki and the three mechas shared a single brain cell, and they didn't really get the concept of pretending to be on opposite sides to play. Their parents were scientists who were researching mechas, and that day, it was Fubuki's turn to be studied. That was the day when their lab was destroyed and her parents killed, and even though Iki found no trace of her sister except her severed mecha, she was certain that she died too. So now when she sees her, she can't believe it at all. Fubuki suddenly hugs her, saying that she missed her, and then starts coughing as she falls to her knees. Iki is worried about her health, when suddenly, the worm-type mecha reveals itself. Iki's mecha arms instantly attack it and pin it against the wall, believing that it is the source of their misfortune. The worm mecha begs her to stop, and at least listen to her, and just then, Aki hears the ARMS members coming and leaves the area. Instead of handing over the worm to ARMS, she wants to deal with her parents' murderer herself. Fubuki tells her not to hurt her mecha because it is her fault that their parents died. Aki is left dumbfounded as Fubuki starts crying, and then the worm mecha consoles her, saying that it was not Fubuki's fault but an accident. She explains that 8 years ago, her parents were conducting experiments to boost the Arbitrium using various mecha users. When the worm mecha and Fubuki came close, their energies suddenly resonated, and she felt attracted to her. The worm says that she felt Fubuki's energy going berserk, and to calm her down and save her life, she tried to leave her original host and bond with her, but that made things even worse. They went out of control when they bonded, and that led to the freak accident where Aki's parents and other scientists died. Fubuki cries, telling Aki that she really wanted to see her again, but couldn't show her face after being responsible for her parents' deaths. Aki tells her that it was not her but the worm and tries to destroy it with her own hands. Fubuki tries to stop her and loses consciousness, and the worm mecha tells Aki that ever since the accident, Fubuki cannot produce Arbitrium to feed her anymore. She cannot get better at a hospital, and even the Kagami group or ARMS don't have the technology to save her life. There is only one solution to her problem, and that involves killing Hikaru and using his Arbitrium to save Fubuki. Later that night, the worm mecha tells Aki that she has been stealing energy from other mecha users to feed Fubuki, but her condition is worsening too much now and she can't keep up. That is why killing Hikaru is their only way. Fubuki tells Aki that she doesn't want it because she is happy to meet her sister again. Her mecha tells her not to give up on living, and when Aki sees the doll they used to play with in childhood, she is overwhelmed by emotions. On the other side, Alma wakes up Hikaru early in the morning and tells him to get ready before Aki breaks into his room. Hikaru just looks at the window, but this time Aki comes through the front door instead. She behaves politely and acts weird and spaced out all day and doesn't even pay attention when they run into Shira. Shira tells Hikaru that they have exams coming soon, so they should hold a joint study session with the three of them and Jun, who is spying on them from a distance. Jun refuses to come to a study session, but when Shira says that it is going to be at Hikaru's home, he immediately changes his decision, thinking that he can find out more about him. He tells Hikaru that he is going to learn a lot of things from him, and Shira gets excited, thinking that she is going to see some boy-on-boy action. Hikaru thinks this is going to be troublesome because he is sure that Aki and Jun are constantly going to be fighting, but Alma tells him that the bigger concern should be cleaning his room. However, Aki was spaced out during all this, and when Hikaru snaps her back to her senses and tells her about the study session, she refuses to join it, stating she is busy. Shira tries to convince her by saying that this is her chance to go to Hikaru's home, but she replies that she goes there every day. Hikaru asks Aki if something happened because she is behaving odd today, and she says that everything is fine. Later that night, mecha users all across the city go berserk after being infected by the worm mecha. They begin attacking people randomly, and both ARMS and the Kagami group struggle to contain them. Algiz knows more than he lets on and decides to take Aki down along with her sister to save the berserk people from destroying the city. While the ARMS members are restraining their teammates who have been infected and bringing them in to stabilize their conditions, Algiz orders everyone to spread out in the city and stop the berserk ones. The next morning, Alma wakes up Hikaru by threatening him about Aki's arrival, but today she doesn't even come to his house. Later that evening, as he is on his way home with Shira and Jun for the study session, Hikaru gets a call from Algiz, who immediately summons him to the headquarters. Hikaru tells his friends that he has got to go, and rushes to the ARMS headquarters, where Algiz briefs him about the situation about the worm users attacking people, and then shows him clips that show Aki with the main worm user. Algiz says that Aki might be involved with the culprit behind this incident, and they must capture them both to interrogate. Hikaru asks Algiz how they can treat their comrade like a criminal, and he replies that they don't have a need for such useless emotions in this organization. Hikaru runs away, determined to find Aki before ARMS and save her. But on the way, the scientist stops him and asks if he even has a plan in that peanut-sized brain of his. Hikaru doesn't even recognize the poor guy, but Alma does. The scientist offers to help Hikaru locate Akita and says that he has the perfect candidate for that. He calls out Wanner, who has been their prisoner ever since, and now he is going to help them find Aki. Wanner nervously comes to Hikaru, who can't believe that the guy who once tried to kill him is now going to help him. Then suddenly, Wanner's mecha, who has been freed from his shackles, apologizes to Hikaru and Alma. Even though he was used as a slave by Wanner, the mecha believes in the samurai code and takes responsibility for those actions. He is ready to accept any punishment to atone for his sin, and before that, he wants to help them find Aki. Hikaru is even more shocked and asks why did he go back to the guy who treated him so poorly, and the mecha says that he requested the scientist to allow it, because it is his duty to educate young people who have lost their path. The mecha hits Wanner on the head and makes him grovel before Hikaru to beg for forgiveness. Hikaru thinks that he met another weirdo, but Alma immediately hits it off with his new mecha bro. After that, the mecha literally drags Wanner around the city to find traces of Aki using his ability to identify the unique energy signal of any person. On the way, they run into Jun, and Alma convinces him to join them because that is the only way they can hold the study session he wanted. They begin looking for Aki and come to the location where she fought with her sister. Just then, Aki comes there too, and she is determined to kill Hikaru to save her sister. Hikaru immediately asks her where has she been and says that he was worried about her. He explains that Algiz told him that she is in league with the worm-type mecha user, and asks if that is true. He keeps on yapping as Aki menacingly walks towards him, and then asks him to come with her. He is completely ready to go with her, but this dumbass isn't thinking straight, and she attacks him, saying that even if he doesn't come with her, she will use force. Hikaru freaks out, but luckily, Jun comes to his rescue and stops Aki's attacks with his chain mecha. He tells her that Hikaru is his prey, and he won't give him to her. Wanner tries to sneak away, but Jun uses him as a meat shield, but he croaks after just one hit. Aki keeps attacking, but Jun completely blocks her and restrains her. However, Hikaru has no survival instincts and common sense, so he stops Jun instead and asks Aki to calm down too. He says that he will help her, and then Alma asks her why does she want to take Hikaru with her. Aki doesn't give an answer, but her twin mechas say that Aki's younger sister Fubuki is still alive. They explain that Fubuki is ill and needs a huge amount of arbitrium to survive, and that can only be obtained from Hikaru and his trigger arm. Jun starts laughing at this because he has heard about the worm-type mecha and the accident it caused 8 years ago. He tells Aki to stop being a sheep and open her eyes, because the worm mecha is holding her sister as a hostage to manipulate her. Her mechas start quarreling with Zoro's illegitimate son, but then suddenly, Hikaru tells Aki that he will come with her. He doesn't care if it is a trap, because she is his friend and he wants to help her. Alma agrees with him and pulls out the pamphlet of the all-you-can-eat barbecue that Hikaru had promised Aki. Jun confronts him and says that he is making a stupid decision, but Hikaru tells him that he can make his own decisions. Meanwhile, Aki stares at the pamphlet, and she suddenly changes her mind. She tells Hikaru that she does not need him or his pity, and she will find another way to save her sister. She tells him that they were never friends, and he was nothing more than the person she was supposed to guard. She begins walking away, telling her mechas that it is an issue for their family, and they can't rely on the help of outsiders. Once she goes to the hideout, her sister and the worm mecha eagerly welcome her. They ask her where is Hikaru, and she tells them that she didn't bring him because she will find another way to solve the problem. This shocks Fubuki, and she gets emotional, accusing her sister of caring more about Hikaru than her. Aki says that is not true, and then Fubuki suddenly hugs her, saying that she is in a lot of pain. She looks at Aki with eager eyes, asking if she wants to let her die like before. The simple-minded Aki falls for her emotional blackmailing and says that she will save her at all costs, and for that, she is willing to give her arbitrium and life to her. On the other hand, Alma is trying to pursue Hikaru to go after Aki because she needs their help. But Hikaru is whining like a butt-hurt guy. He has taken Aki's words to his heart and says that he really is not her friend, so he shouldn't interfere in her life. Jun gets tired of their yapping, so he grabs Hikaru's collar and T asks him what is it that he wants to do, and Hikaru shouts that he wants to help Aki. Jun tells him to go and do that because life is too short, and he may regret if he doesn't take action now. Alma also says the same thing, and finally, Hikaru overcomes his inner conflict and decides to help Aki. Meanwhile, Fubuki and the worm mecha tell Aki that her arbitrium won't be enough to save her. She insists, and the fed-up Fubuki decides to stop acting like her long-lost sister. She goes back to sit on the bed and tells Aki that she is a useless doll that can't even play her role properly. Aki doesn't understand what is happening, and then Fubuki suddenly summons a bunch of mecha users who have been possessed by the worm mecha. She asks Fubuki why is she doing this, but the worm mecha takes full control of Fubuki's body, calling Aki a dumb bitch. The worm mecha reveals its true form along with the fact that she was controlling Fubuki the entire time. She attacks Aki, who blocks her attack, and then deals with the puppets before attacking the worm mecha again. However, she drops her guard as the worm mecha makes Fubuki act like she in pain. Aki's mechas are restrained, and she gets knocked down too. The worm mecha says that maybe she should enter her body next because she has grown tired of Fubuki's frail body. Her mechas attack the worm, but they can't pull it out because that would kill Fubuki. The worm mecha teases Aki, telling her that it was fun to kill her parents who were trying to save their daughter. Aki breaks down completely, and then suddenly, Hikaru and Jun break into the building. Hikaru hits the worm mecha away, and Aki asks him why did he return. He replies that he just wanted to help a friend, and Aki is shocked. The mind-controlled Fubuki gets up and goes to attack Hikaru, but Jun steps in between them and asks her what does she want with him. The worm mecha simply slaps him away and then begins attacking Hikaru. Jun fights back and tries to restrain the worm mecha, but she laughs at him, saying that her failed clone is trying its hardest to impress her. Jun asks what the hell does she mean, and the worm mecha just shuts him up. Just then, Hikaru attacks her, but he and Alma suddenly feel their power decreasing because the worm mecha absorbed it. Suddenly, Aki stands in front of Hikaru to protect him, but the worm mecha knows that she is helpless as long as Fubuki is her hostage. She easily manages to restrain her and then focuses on Hikaru. They begin to fight, and despite Hikaru's best efforts, he can't manage to hurt the worm mecha or free his friends. The worm mecha pins him to the wall instead and begins sucking his energy. She rejoices, saying that this abundant energy is as delicious as it was 100 years ago. Alma asks her what does she mean, and the worm mecha replies that it seems the rumors about him losing his memories are true. Alma demands to know what she knows about him, but she doesn't answer and keeps sucking his arbitrium. Aki screams at them from behind, so the worm mecha decides to finish her first. She begins strangling her, and Aki starts crying, thinking that she failed to save her sister. She cries for help, and her tears awaken the power of the protagonist that was lying dormant within Hikaru. He begins releasing a vast amount of arbitrium, and the worm mecha absorbs it all happily. However, that happiness is short-lived because Hikaru's arbitrium overloads her, and she suddenly explodes. Hikaru manages to save his friends, but it turns out that the arbitrium overload didn't kill the worm mecha, and instead made her even stronger. Hikaru is no longer in any condition to fight, so Jun decides to finish the fight for him. He goes to face the worm mecha, but she ignores him like your crush ignores you. Jun is pissed at this, and he grabs the worm mecha with his chains and then electrocutes her. The worm mecha tries to get free, but Jun's strong attack rips her in half, and she leaves Fubuki's body. Jun's hair suddenly loses its green color as his power decreases, but he is satisfied that he got to whoop the worm mecha's ass. Meanwhile, Aki takes her sister into her arms, and she seems to be finally free. Just then, the worm mecha rises again, using one of its puppets as the host. She sends the puppets to attack, but Aki blows them all away. Frustrated by this, the worm mecha transforms into her ultimate mode, but before she can do anything, Hikaru charges at her, with Alma wrapped around his hand. He manages to injure the worm mecha with that, and she is taken aback to see Alma in that form. She attacks him in sheer desperation, but Hikaru dodges all her attacks, and then lands a powerful punch to her face. The worm mecha curses Alma as her body gets shattered, saying that it is his fault that Yakumo died, and they ended up like this. The worm mecha vanishes for good, and all her parts that were infecting other people vanish too. While Hikaru is glad about it, Alma is buried in thoughts about what happened between him and Yakumo in the past. Soon after that, things return to normal, and Aki barges into Hikaru's room through the window. He is happy that she is back to normal, and as they walk school together, Aki suddenly asks him to help her in studies. He tells her that the exams are already over, but Aki says that she wants to teach Fubuki, who is currently undergoing rehab in the ARM's headquarters. Aki then sincerely thanks Hikaru, and says that as a way to show her gratitude, she will guard him all the time now. He says that it is not necessary, but Alma tells Aki that she can be with him 24/7, because he often feels lonely waiting for her. Hikaru gets flustered as he tries to cover things up, but Aki tells him not to worry because she will come to wake him up every day.